Hey, you're here with Dr. Jodi, and this is season 2 of Anxiety. I am so done with you. This podcast is a teen and young adult guide to ditching toxic stress and hardwiring your brain for happiness. If you're new here, grab a copy of my book, Anxiety, I'm So Done With You, because this series is following section by section through the book, going a little bit deeper, giving more examples, and telling more stories. Season 2, which follows along with Chapter 2, is going through the lies that anxiety, depression, and negative thinking tell you to get you to believe them. Once you know what they are, you can see them coming a mile away and call them out. That way they can no longer sucker punch you with their toxicity. I appreciate you for listening, subscribing, and leaving me 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. If I've helped you at all, spread the word about this book and this podcast series. Mental health problems are invisible, so you never know who is struggling around you, and you sharing can make a huge difference in their lives. We're talking about Chapter 2, lie number 2. You need to look at me. This is a biggie. This is a biggie, because anxiety wants your undivided attention. And unfortunately, it knows exactly what to do to be a beacon for that attention. It makes you think of things that are hard to ignore. What's worse is that it makes you pull back from everything. It makes you want to stay in your room or hide under the covers or sit on a chair and try to figure out your life. It wants all of your attention. That's why it does that. That's why it has you isolate yourself. That's why it keeps you home. It wants to have your undivided attention. One of the worst things that you could do is give your brain space to the anxiety, because when you're busy, when you're engaged in something, or when you're trying to figure something out real in the world, it takes your brain space, leaving nothing for anxiety. I interview people all day long about this, and I ask them about times when they're with their friends or they're having fun or they're doing something. Almost always, the anxiety is gone. At the very least, a lot less. It might be in the background somewhere, and it might be bothering you that it is in the background somewhere, but it is a lot less. Anxiety usually doesn't hang out with fun or doesn't hang out during fun times, and laughter and anxiety cannot live the same moment together. Anxiety is constantly trying to engage you, and it does this by telling you something that you think that you have to deal with. So it might have you obsessed with looking at people's private parts. It might have you worried that your hands might be dirty and that could get you sick, or you might touch something that could get you sick. This is the interesting part about people being afraid of germs. So many times I've interviewed someone who is afraid of germs and getting germs and touching things or sitting on things that might have germs. They're not as afraid of getting sick as they are of touching germs. It's this evasive nonsense of it'll be horrible, it'll be overwhelming, or you can't, that stops us in our tracks. We don't even ask, what's the problem? Why am I afraid of not getting germs? I'm not making light of them. I'm not making people feel ridiculous. I'm unpacking the fear by saying, what is it about that you're afraid of? Then, what is it about that you're afraid of? If you do that, you will see that anxiety has very little substance. It has this very thin demand. Don't get a germ, it'll be awful. And when you start to unpack it and look underneath, there's nothing under there. Let's look at some more things that anxiety tells you. You have to worry about that. If you don't do this right, something bad will happen to someone you love. If you don't look perfect, he'll break up with you. What if I don't make enough money? What if I cut my fingers? These kind of phrases are overwhelming and they're really distracting because the monkey thinks there's a problem. There's no problem. What if I cut my fingers? You didn't cut your fingers. So there's no problem about cutting your fingers. It's a what if. It's a possibility of some future suffering. The monkey is trying to solve something that didn't happen and may never happen. And it could get really distracted. You're trying to figure out why you thought that, what you'd do if that happened, why you're crazy enough to think that, and on goes that anxiety spiral. When we give it that attention, our mind gets hooked on it. Remember, we have 12 to 60,000 thoughts a day, 12 to 60. There's tons of thoughts going through our mind all the time. Not all of them make it into our consciousness. So there's tons of thoughts going by, and we only grab certain ones and bring them in. And we grab ones that are familiar, ones that are disturbing, ones that are funny, ones that are weird. But some strange thought comes in, and if your mind grabs it, pulls it into your consciousness and says, "You are crazy. Jodi, why did you think this? This is weirdo to think. This is bad." It's going to pull it in, and you're going to wonder why you're doing this, right? You're going to go down that rabbit hole. Then the next time that thought goes by, you're going to be like, again, oh no, you're going to pull it in and get really upset that it came again. And our mind could get hooked on it because after a couple of times, you keep pulling that thought in. And then you really worry about why you're obsessed with that thing happening. This is a tactic of anxiety to get you to engage with it. And I like to call it anxiety content. So the content of what anxiety is telling you. You can't. Your hands might be dirty. Stop looking at their private parts. If you don't do this right, something bad will happen. If you don't look perfect, he'll break up with you. If you don't make enough money, you'll fail. There's nothing there for you in this content because there's not a problem yet. And what I mean by there's nothing there for you is that there's not a problem to solve. There's a potential of a future problem, and you're thinking about how you could save yourself from that in that future. But there's nothing that you could do now so you feel stalled and helpless, and that increases your anxiety. There are literally no benefits for you to be trying to solve this unsolvable problem now. It's just anxiety content. Anxiety is going to use content that works on you, something that's important to you. It's important that he doesn't break up with you. It's important that you have enough money. It's important that you stay clean. It uses the content related to something important to you to seem real. In the book, I give the example of the Wizard of Oz, because the Wizard of Oz is a great metaphor for what's going on here. It has the smoke and the loud banging voice and the big lights, and it's very, very scary. And then you realize that it's this little man behind the curtain pulling levers. Anxiety wants you to think that it's a big, scary head, menacing and loud, but it has no substance. It's a hologram. It's a projection of lights and sounds, and there's nothing real there. In the What's in Your Hand exercise in this section, I give you one of the most important practices that you could do in this whole book. If you do no other practices and no other exercises, do this one, because a lot of times we think we have to face our fear. And we do. We do have to face our fear. And also we think we have to override our fear. Yes, I taught you that in the last chapter. We have to override that fear and deconstruct that fear. But then there's a third step. And in this exercise, I introduce you to the third step. If you have the audiobook and you want that exercise printed out, I have a download on the blog post that goes along with this episode. The link is in the show notes. Sometimes after we face our fear and deconstruct that fear, it comes back. Anxiety, doubt, frustration, hurt, those feelings come back even when we thought we let them go. Usually what happens is we get really angry about this and really frustrated and really disappointed with ourselves. When it comes back, we think that we didn't get rid of it properly. We think that we're stupid or weak or something is wrong with us that this keeps coming back. What if coming back is actually what you expected it to do? These feelings become a habit, and we become used to them, and we have those neural pathways that take us to them quite quickly. But if you expected them to come back, everything would change about how you experience them. I have a script for this too. You say, "Hey, anxiety, I knew you'd come back. Just have a seat. I'm busy right now." Listen to that again. "Hey, anxiety, I knew you'd come back. Just have a seat. I'm busy right now." Let me unpack for you what is going on in this script. But first, let me show you the alternative. The alternative is when the anxiety comes back, you say, oh my God, you came back. I thought I got rid of you, but I didn't. I'm such a loser. I don't even know. I don't know how everyone could do it but me, and everyone knows how to do it, and I don't know how to do it. I don't know if I can handle this. It's back. Now what am I going to do? I hate this anxiety. I hate this anxiety. Can anyone relate? Can you see how that makes you feel so much worse? That's judgment and worry about anxiety, those negative self-judgment and worry circles from Chapter 1, Section 1. They're globbing on and making the whole situation exponentially worse. So first and foremost, we don't want to judge that feeling coming back. If you expected it to come back, then you wouldn't judge it. It wouldn't blindside you. You wouldn't be surprised or disappointed. You'd be like, oh, anxiety, I knew you'd come back. See the difference? You could feel the difference in the energy of the words as I speak them. There you are, anxiety. I knew you'd come back. There's no attachment in my energy. There's no worry. There's no self-judgment. When you have the expectation that it's going to come back, not because there's something wrong with you, not because you're weak, but because that's what problems do to the mind. You can use all of that energy that you're saving to commit to practice and repetition to change those neural pathways. When you are not attached to the change process, it is so much faster and so much easier this way. But I'm on a tangent again. Let me get back to the exercise. So we're talking about anxiety content. Once you deconstructed it, once you decided that you don't need to have it anymore, then when the anxiety comes back, you say, hi, anxiety chatter, I knew you'd come back. You want to stay out of the content of it before the content comes in and you get lost in the rabbit hole of that content, of what it wants you to be worried about, what problems it says you need to solve right now because what if they happen? When you stay out of the content, you stay out of that conflict with yourself, that conflict between you and anxiety inside you, which actually is giving the anxiety a lot of attention. So when anxiety says something's bad and you say, no, it's okay, I'm okay, I'm okay. And anxiety's like, it's bad. And you're saying, I'm okay, I'm okay. This causes a conflict between you and anxiety, which gives anxiety more of your attention. It causes more chaos. And you're trying to solve the problem as if that's going to resolve the chaos. But you can't solve a problem that's unsolvable, so you'll always have doubt. That's a way anxiety gets you. You always have doubt, so the chaos ensues. You have to decide not to engage in the content of what anxiety is saying. Let's take, for example, if anxiety says, you're going to fail this test. And instead of saying, okay, oh my gosh, what happens if I fail the test? What are my parents going to say if I fail the test? What am I going to do? I'm going to fail out of school. Instead of all that, you want to say, oh, hi, anxiety chatter. I knew you'd come back. Just have a seat. I'm busy right now. And then you want to start your homework or you want to study for the test if that's the thing that you're doing. The best way to do this exercise is picture yourself doing it before the anxiety comes. So think about something that would make you anxious. Don't think about the content of what it's saying. Zoom out and call it anxiety chatter, and then use the script. Hi, anxiety chatter. I knew you'd come back. Just have a seat. I'm busy right now. And then you want to take your attention to the task at hand. Any task. You don't want to leave any brain space for the anxiety. You want to engage it in something in the moment. Some kind of activity, action, something that would really engage your mind. It's a bonus if you're doing something to help the situation or help somebody else, or do something to make yourself feel better or build your confidence. But any activity will do. So thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you loved it. Thank you for subscribing and commenting, and head on over to the blog post for this episode where I have more resources for you. As always, that link is in the show notes. And don't forget to give me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, because that's going to get this podcast into the ears of more people that need it. This youth mental health crisis is out of control. Kids are suffering. share this message so that more people could get help. In the next episode, we're going to be talking about Chapter 2, Section 3. Have a read, and I'll meet you there.